A family moved to Kansas, bought a quiet little farm. No neighbors, no noise, just peace. But then the FBI showed up. They kicked down the door and said someone was kidnapped and even drugs were hidden there. But the family living there were totally innocent. So how could that even happen? And the big question, could it happen to you? So let me tell you about this small town in Kansas, which is called Potwin. It's not a place you would hear about on the news or see in movies. Just a quiet town, a couple hundred people, farms and wide open fields. You get the picture. The kind of place where nothing big ever happens. But in the near past, somehow it did. Now, in the middle of all that peaceful land, lived a family. The Arnolds. They had a farmhouse with a big yard, open skies and a calm life. No crime, no trouble, just regular folks trying to live in peace. But then something strange started happening. First, a police officer showed up. He said he was looking for a missing person and somehow all signs pointed to that house. The Arnolds were confused. They had absolutely no idea what he was talking about. And a few days later, it happened again. And again. And again, different people kept showing up at their door. Cops, investigators, and even angry strangers. One thought their phone was stolen and tracked to that house. Another was looking for a runaway kid. And someone else was trying to find their stolen laptop. All of them were sure this little Kansas farmhouse had something to do with it. Can you imagine how scary that must have been? Living in the middle of nowhere, and suddenly you are the center of all kinds of weird accusations. At first, the Arnolds thought maybe it was a mistake, maybe someone nearby was causing the trouble. But over time it became clear, something much bigger was going on. Something they didn't do was causing all this attention, and they had no way to stop it. And here is where things start getting even stranger. After the first police visit, the Arnolds hoped it was just a one-time mistake. But nope, the visits kept coming. And it wasn't just the police anymore. For some reason, everyone started showing up at the exact same farmhouse. Different problems, different people, same house, over and over. It didn't make sense. The Arnolds had nothing to do with any of it. They weren't tech people, they weren't running some secret business, and they actually barely even used the internet. But every time something shady happened online, a scam, a hack, or a theft, it somehow led back to them. And no one could explain why. They had tried telling the police, hey, we didn't do anything. They even called lawyers and local officials, but no one could stop it. The reports just kept coming. It was like some invisible force had marked their home, like it had become a digital black hole for crime reports. Just imagine how bad it was living like that, not knowing what you will be accused of next. The Arnolds were stuck in the middle of something much bigger than them, and they had no idea it all started with a simple number. So what was actually going on? Well, the answer takes us into the world of computers, but don't worry, I will explain it super simply. There is a company called MAXMIND. They are not that famous. If you are not in the tech world, you have probably never heard of them. But they run something really important behind the scenes, a location database for IP addresses. Now, what the heck is an IP address? It's basically like a digital home address for your internet. Every phone, computer or tablet connected to the internet has one, and companies like MAXMIND try to figure out where those IP addresses are in the real world, like what city, what town, or even what house they are coming from. This is useful for things like ads, fraud detection, or tracking down stolen stuff. So when someone does something bad online, like hacking or stealing, police or companies might use a database like MAXMIND to find out where that person is. And here is the problem. MAXMIND didn't always know where an IP address was. So what did they do when they didn't have a location? They guessed. More specifically, they made a default location, a kind of we don't know, so let's just point here spot. And the location they picked was a random set of coordinates right in the middle of the United States. 38 minus 97. Just a pair of numbers. But for some reason, those numbers didn't land in the middle of an empty field or a lake. Well, I think now you already guessed where that spot landed in real life. It was right on the Arnolds property. And here is a big mistake. Not near it, not close to it, but it was exactly on it. So every time someone online did something shady and their IP address couldn't be found, MAXMIND pointed it to that house. MAXMIND said, "Yo motherfucker, it happened there, I guess." And that's why all these people kept showing up at the Arnolds' door. They were just the unlucky family living where a computer company dropped the pin on the map. Now think about how many IP addresses there are in the US. I think it's close to about 1 billion or more. So when law enforcement, tech companies companies or people trying to track stolen stuff look at those IPs, they saw that house again. And the worst part is that no one at MAXMIND thought about what this would do to whoever lived there. At this point, the airnauts were living in a nightmare. This wasn't just annoying anymore, it wasn't just weird visits, it was full-on harassment. Just imagine this, you are sitting at home, eating dinner, and the police car pulls up outside. Then a few days later, it happens again. But not just the police, private investigators, angry strangers, and even random people banging on the door in the middle of the night. All of them were convinced that something or someone was hiding in that house. It gets so bad that the family stopped feeling safe. They were scared. They tried telling people, "We didn't do anything, we don't even know what you are talking about." But most of the time the visitors didn't believe them, because their tracking system said otherwise. And just remember, the airnauts didn't even know what MAXMIND was. They had absolutely no idea their address was being linked to millions of IPs. At this point I'm not even sure they knew what was an IP. They were exposed like crazy. To them, it just felt like they were being targeted for no reason. But at some point they found out the truth. Someone explained the MAXMIND database and those default coordinates, and that's when they decided to fight back. They sued MAXMIND, not just because of the constant harassment, but because it literally had gone on for years. No warnings, no explanations, and no help. They argued that MAXMIND should have known better. If you are going to tie thousands of online crimes to a single real-world spot, you would better make sure no one actually lives there. MAXMIND, for their part, didn't deny the mistake, they just hadn't expected it to cause so much damage. Eventually they settled the lawsuit out of court, which means they likely paid money, but no official details were shared publicly. But here is the thing. Even after all that, the damage was already done. And the scary part is that it's not a one-time thing. This kind of digital mistake happens more than you would think. And it's not just about farms in Kansas, it can be everywhere. And how often technology gets it wrong? Take facial recognition, for example. There was a study in Detroit that showed facial recognition software misidentified people about 96% of the time, almost every time. And why it's a problem for you? People were being questioned, arrested, or followed all because a computer thought they looked like someone else. Or how about GPS errors? Tourists were led into active war zones by applications that gave the wrong directions. One wrong turn and boom, real danger, real consequences. And I can tell you, it doesn't stop there. Wrong addresses in food delivery apps, stolen identities flagged to the wrong people, and algorithms deciding if someone should get a loan or go to jail. The problems isn't just that the systems are broken, but is that we believe them even without questioning it. Computers are built by people, and people make mistakes. Okay, except Henry Cavill. In the Arnold's case, a default setting caused years of fear and stress. For others, it might be jail time. And the truth is that most of us wouldn't even know it's happening until it's too late. So yeah, we are living in a digital world, and the system that's running that world, they are not perfect. They never were.